I love open world games. When you're not doing missions, you're left to do whatever you want and can always cause a ton of chaos. So while sitting on my ass doing nothing, as I am one to do, I decided I'd count down my top 10 favorites. Before we start though, I want to clarify a few things. First, there will be multiple games from one series on this list. Second, GTA 5 won't be anywhere on it. Without further ado, let's take a look at my top 10 open world games.
Have you ever wanted to run around Manhattan slicing random civilians and military personnel to bits with giant claw hands? You haven't? Well, Prototype lets you do just that. Prototype follows Alex Mercer, who wakes up in a lab and can't remember anything. But here on this list, we don't give a damn about story, so what can you do in this crazy world of Manhattan? Well, you could always do the agility challenges, or you could do something fun and just run around causing complete and utter mayhem. Mercer's wide variety of powers offer so many possibilities for just messing up Manhattan. You could use the Whip Fist to grab a helicopter out of the air, causing it to crash down on other soldiers. You could use the Hammer Fist to smash cars and tanks. Or you could use a Devastator attack to obliterate everything around you. Even when the military won't leave you the hell alone because you bumped into one of the soldiers, I'm always having a lot of fun in Prototype. The sequel was pretty fun too. I quite like the Saints Row series. In fact, I prefer them to the Grand Theft Auto games. Why is that, you may ask? Because they don't take themselves seriously at all, and Saints Row 4 is one of the best examples of that. Saints Row 4 reuses Steelport from Saints Row 3 and gives you superpowers. Yeah, Saints Row 3 gave you superpowers in one of the DLC missions, but they didn't last for very long. Saints Row 4 gives you superpowers for the entire game. Sure, they negate pretty much all challenge of the game, but are the Saints Row games really known for their insane difficulty? No. So the lack of it in this installment isn't that big of a deal. With the already existing craziness from Saints Row 3 still in this game, superpowers only make it crazier. It's an insane amount of fun to just run around at Steelport at super high speeds while throwing fire and ice at everything. You could go up to an incredibly high building and then fire yourself at the streets, essentially nuking the entire city. Just look at this! Saints Row 4 is just an insane amount of fun to me. I'll be honest, I wasn't that big a fan of the original Dead Rising. It wasn't a terrible game, I just didn't enjoy it as much as everybody else seemed to. So when Dead Rising 2 released, I was a bit skeptical. Then I started playing the game, and before I knew it, it had been 3 hours, and I'd only been messing around in the mall the entire time. Some of you might say that Dead Rising 2 isn't an open world game, but I think it counts. You have objectives, but you can just say fuck that and screw around. Dead Rising 2 offers one of the greatest weapon systems I've ever seen in my life. Sure, you can use some of the more basic weapons like an axe, or a baseball bat, or a sledgehammer, but why do that when you can combine a pipe with some fireworks for a makeshift rocket launcher, or put some drills into a bucket to slam on a zombie's head? There are so many different combinations of weapons, and I don't even think I found half of them yet. Dead Rising 2 just offers an endless amount of fun.
I don't care much for westerns. The setting has never really interested me, but I can respect the greats like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I also don't care much for the Grand Theft Auto games, as the newer games take themselves way too seriously. Yet when Rockstar combined the two, they created one of my favorite open world games of all time.
Red Dead Redemption is simply amazing. The countryside is vast and there's so much to do and explore. You can choose if you want to be a Legend of the West like Brett Maverick, or the Scourge of the West like Angel Eyes. And with the Undead Nightmare expansion, you can fight zombies, because why not? Red Dead Redemption may not have as many crazy options as Grand Theft Auto, but there's just something about it that makes it far more enjoyable. The original Just Cause was a game that completely passed me by. To this day, I still haven't played it. Just Cause 2, however, is one of my favorite games on the Xbox 360. For the most part, Just Cause 2 is a pretty generic open-world game, but there's one thing that makes it much more than that, and it's also the reason this game even made it onto the list. The grappling hook. You can do all the normal stuff you'd expect with the grappling hook, grabbing enemies, objects, etc., but you can also use it for traveling across the island. Take to the skies and cause chaos! Just Cause 2 is probably the most chaos-driven game on this list, as you need to cause a certain amount of chaos in order to progress in the game. There's so much to do, and the island is just massive. One of my absolute favorite things to do is just grab any random person with the grappling hook and attach them to the car. While I enjoyed Saints Row 4, I like Saints Row 3 way more. Saints Row 3 moves the 3rd Street Saints from Stillwater to Steelport, and you know what that means. Time to fuck this place up too. Like every other game on this list, Steelport offers so much to do, but the best thing to do is just grab some weapons, activate some cheats for more crazy shit, and cause some chaos. Get the entire army after you trying to kill you, while you also try to fend off hordes of zombie civilians. Fly around in a VTOL and fire missiles at everything in sight. Or you could run down the street with a machine gun firing randomly. I've been playing this game for over 2 years, and I'm still finding new ways to screw around. Saints Row 3 isn't my favorite game in the series, though. That'll show up just a bit later. I've talked before about how much I love the Destroy All Humans games, and the final entry in the series, Destroy All Humans Path of the Furon, is easily in my top 5 favorite games on the Xbox 360. While critics and fans of the series bashed the game for reasons I can't seem to understand, I friggin' love this game. Sure, it's nowhere near as good as Destroy All Humans 2, but it's still pretty damn good. The charm of the series is still here, poking fun at 50s B-movies as well as pretty much all of the 1970s. Crypto still has his classic Zap-O-Matic as well as some crazy new weapons like the Venus Human Trap and Superballer. My personal favorite weapon in the series, the Dislocator, also returns, and it's just as fun to use as ever. It's still insanely fun to run around on foot destroying humans, but I think it's just as fun to take to the skies and use your saucer to eradicate the entire city. This is something that I think a lot of open-world games are missing. Destructible environments. Pretty much every building in this entire game can be leveled to the ground, and it's incredibly satisfying. The amount of destruction you can cause still blows my mind. Destroy All Humans Path of the Furon is one of those few open-world games that I doubt I will ever get tired of playing.
Remember earlier in this video when I said that Saints Row 3 wasn't my favorite game in the Saints Row series? Yeah, this one is.
Saints Row 2 is fucking crazy. Stillwater, much like Steelport, has a ton of stuff to do, but it's all so much more enjoyable than the stuff in Steelport. Stillwater is also a much more interesting town. There are actually different sections of the city, each with their own look. I know I'm repeating myself when I talk about the Saints Row games, but the description fits all of them. Just when it comes to Saints Row 2, it's multiplied by 100. I'll just leave it at this. Saints Row 2 is one of the craziest games I've ever played, and I friggin' love it. Despite what I said in my top 10 video game franchises video, the original Destroy All Humans is awesome. It's probably the least crazy out of the series, but it still pokes fun at 50s B-movies. The writing is amazing, with Crypto usually spouting some smart-ass line at Orthopox, or talking to cows.
They eat with their mouths. Ugh, I think I'm going to be violently ill.
The weapons are still incredibly fun to use, and there's never a dull moment in the entire game. If you want a change of pace from using guns to destroy humans, why not use your psychokinesis to throw humans and objects all over the place? I will admit that this game made it this high on the list mainly because of nostalgia, but it's also just a really good game.
Before we get to number 1, I just want to say that even though Destroy All Humans is number 2 on this list, it does not even come close to the greatness of the number 2 spot.
Destroy All Humans 2 may not have the biggest open world or the best graphics, but goddamn if it's not the most fun I've ever had in any open world game. When I was a kid, pretty much all of my gaming was done on the PlayStation 2, and most of the time spent playing the PlayStation 2 was with Destroy All Humans 2, and Star Wars Battlefront 2. While Destroy All Humans 2 doesn't offer an insane amount of side missions, it's just a ton of fun to run around Base City or Takashima zapping people with the Zap-O-Matic, or vaporizing them with the Ion Detonator. Destroy All Humans 2 also has my absolute favorite co-op mode in any game. I don't have any footage of it, so you'll have to take my word for it. While Destroy All Humans 2's worlds aren't incredibly massive, they're still incredibly fun to travel through looking for Furon cells for upgrades or finding all the Ark Voodoo cults. Destroy All Humans 2 also has one of my favorite weapons not only in the Destroy All Humans series, but in any video game. Meteor Strike has very limited ammo, and it's damn hard to get any for it. But when you do, whatever city you're in is screwed. I won't ramble on any longer about this amazing game. If you haven't played it, go fix that right now. It's pretty cheap, so you really have no excuse.
So those are my top 10 open world games. If you're wondering why Far Cry 3 or Sleeping Dogs weren't on the list, it's because I haven't played them. But the games that are on the list are all amazing and definitely worth your time. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time with another review.
Looking at the script and I wrote, the amount of destruction you can destruction. Oh, I love my script writing abilities.